you have a better idea of how many women composers are in the top ranks of composing for film and TV right now?
Unfortunately, I'm like the worst person to ask about this stuff.
Are there names of some ones you know that I can add to Rachel Portman, so I have at least one more name?
I mean, I was just going to say I wrote Rachel Portman a fan letter when I was like a senior in college or something. So, you know, and you know, getting to score Lasse Hallström movies, that, you know, sort of following in her footsteps was like a really exciting thing. But
were you daunted by the fact that we're talking about women composers? And I'll be happy if anybody from the audience wants to throw some names out.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you know, and I also do a fair amount of arranging, you know, when I'm not doing movies, you know, arranging, and Anne Dudley was an inspiration for that too.
I guess the point I'm trying to overkill there is that it's daunting. It's a really competitive business. I mean, of all the things that I've seen in my 15 plus years at Variety, for screenwriters and directors and cinematographers, you know, the business has never been tougher. For composers, it really does feel like, you know, there's a room this size and the people are either in this room or they're not. For women, it seems really daunting. Did that factor into your thinking about this? Did it seem like it lengthened the odds for you, or you just said, what the hell, I'm going to ignore that and move on?
Well, I've tried to give this a lot of thought now because, you know, it's becoming sort of apparent, you know,
yeah.
I'm starting to get, because I really did have to sit and notice that, because to be honest, I really never dwelled on it very much, which is probably why it never affected me. I never felt discriminated against. I think if you feel sort of insecure about something, like if I thought maybe I had some disadvantages, I probably could have found some disadvantages, you know, but I think everyone has something different about them and some reason why, you know, they might not be the most likely candidate for something, you know, and but it's just, I really can't tell you why there aren't more women composers, you know.
But it didn't cause you to think, what the hell am I doing here? This is, I'm dreaming, because I think we're all dreaming. Anybody that thinks they can make a movie at any level is sort of dreaming. Then when you think of a Pirates of the Caribbean or Clash of the Titans and Lasse Hallström movie, it's like the dream just gets bigger. What was the project for each of you that was the breakthrough that said, okay, I'm going to be getting calls now. I'm going to be in that room where people work instead of looking through the window at the people working in the room. Was there a particular project you felt put you on the map?
If I can answer, I'd like to answer that, because after Pirates, I thought, well, that must be it, right? I didn't get a call for 4 months. It was the quietest time in my life. I have not worked for 4 months since.
Interesting.
I do not know what that means and how these waves work. But there's also two types of, I think, breakthrough movies. For me, certainly it wasn't the one which was the most popular. It wasn't, for me, it was maybe a film where I thought, I think I can do this job now. And it was after Pirates.
Where you had a creative breakthrough where you felt that
exactly.
you really you're in the zone.
Yeah.
Which picture was that?
Maybe it was like more of a series, but the most important film to me is probably a film nobody actually has seen. It was after Pirates. I had, again, like these few months, and then instead of going on to number 2, 3, 4, 5, I worked with a variety of directors, and one of them was a Chinese director called Chen Kaige.
Oh, Chen Kaige.
Yeah, thank you. You know him.
One of the greatest directors in the world.
That's so do I think. And he basically changed my life. I spent 5 months in China working on a film with him. And you come out of that, like, I feel like I'm almost like a film composer grown up after.
What's the title of the film?
It's called Wuji, or The Promise.
The Promise.
Film which was a superstar film in China. He called it an international because it had Korean, Japanese, and Mandarin actors in it. And nobody knows about it here. But see, at that point, I learned that it didn't matter to me for myself if it has a certain visibility or what.
It's the work.
It's the work.
Did you, were you based primarily in China while you were working on that?
I always try to go where the director is, and in that case, he actually had me travel for a month throughout the provinces to absorb and learn. And he's a man that you don't have often, that you just want to live up to his own personality, not expectations, but his personality.
Also interesting because his personal life history is so complex and tragic, and he's lived a lot.
Over lunch, he told me his life story, and it sounded like he couldn't pitch a better script.
I know. Involved in the whole Cultural Revolution, and some very heavy family stuff. And your breakthrough, where you felt that either commercially or creatively you're in the room now.
I wonder, it maybe was Blade Trinity, actually. That was David Goyer directed that, and that actually triggered a working relationship with him, and I've done, I believe, every project with him that he had done except one, maybe. So that was something that, it's...
And David is one of the hottest writers and directors in the business now. He's working on big franchises.
Exactly, yeah. So that triggered the relationship for me. That was, it was just great.
Definitely.
I'd say the biggest, that sort of big breakthrough or transition, I think is a little bit more recent for me. You could almost say it's going on right now, but for a long time, I knew I had credibility in the industry to fix anything and to come in to any giant movie, whether it was Dreamgirls or Spider-Man 3 or whatever. I could come in and own it and be that composer, at least for a little bit. But the big breakthrough for me was when I started getting the calls before that stage, and one of the most challenging and exciting things that I've done is the animated film 9, which was produced by Tim Burton, Timur Bekmambetov, who I had met doing additional music for Wanted, and just winning their approval and their trust and everything, and writing in a very aggressive genre and stuff. I sort of felt, it was so challenging, and when I finished, I sort of felt like, okay, if I can do this, I can do anything, so.
When you worked with Tim and Timur, was it the three of you collaborating, or was it one with one and one with the other? Or were the three of you sort of brainstorming and talking?
It was actually, there were two producers and the director, Shane Acker. The two producers, Jim Lemley and Timur, were very hands-on involved. Tim Burton was in the UK, I think, while a lot of the earlier stuff was going on. He was at all of my sessions, which were in London. The first day, him walking in, and he's, so I met him later on in the process, but.
Not to discourage people from going to university, but it was funny because I went to Cal Arts but didn't finish, and I was interviewing Tim Burton. I was afraid to ask him that question, but I reminded him that we had met. And I said, remember we had talked about Cal Arts, and the first question he asked me was, did you graduate? And I said, no, did you? And he goes, it wasn't that kind of place. And Timur is a great example. I